evolves when markets, technology, and public expectations outpace legacy rulebooks. This chapter maps the cross-cutting regimes that most enterprises now touch: ESG and climate, labor codes, real estate regulation, transparency and insurance, and translates doctrine into operating discipline. The tone is practical but rigorous. Terms are defined, procedures are sequenced, and each section ends with manager-ready tools. 9.1 Environmental, Social and Governance, ESG. 9. 1.1 What ESG means, beyond a slogan. ESG is a decision lens that integrates environmental impacts, emissions, effluents, waste, water, biodiversity. 2. Social outcomes, workforce welfare, diversity and inclusion, supply chain conditions, community impacts. And 3. Governance quality, board oversight, ethics, transparency, risk management. It is not voluntary storytelling. It is a stack of laws, standards, disclosures, and assurance practices that shape capital access, customer trust, and regulator expectations. Key distinctions. ESG is broader than CSR. CSR concerns specified spends and projects. ESG spans enterprise-wide conduct and outcome metrics that investors benchmark over time. 9. 1.2 Corporate Environmental Compliance, India's statutory spine. Framework statutes, Environment Protection Act, Air and Water Acts, rules for hazardous chemicals, batteries, plastic waste, e-waste, biomedical waste, forests and coastal regulation where applicable. Permissions, consent to establish, CTE, prior to construction, installation, and consent to operate, CTO, before operations, from state pollution control boards. Environmental clearance, EC, for notified categories after impact assessment and where mandated public consultation. Operating duties, continuous emissions, effluent monitoring where prescribed, upkeep of scrubbers, ETPs, STPs, manifest and tracking for hazardous waste, extended producer responsibility, EPR, for plastics, batteries and e-waste, safe storage and transport protocols, periodic returns, accountability and liability, board-level responsibility, potential personal exposure for officers in default, escalating penalties, closure directions, and prosecution for willful breaches. Manager's Playbook environment. Map legal triggers by site and process. Maintain a permits calendar with renewal alarms. Build monitoring and evidence trails. Track EPR obligations. Retain recycler certificates. In M&A/leases, insist on baseline environmental studies, indemnities, and escrow for legacy liabilities. 9. 1.3 CB's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, BRSR. Purpose. Convert ESG narratives into comparable, principle-wise metrics aligned with the National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct, NGRBC, so investors can evaluate policies, targets, and outcomes. What companies file, structured disclosures on governance, leadership indicators, and essential indicators. GHG emissions, energy mix, water intensity, waste and circularity, employee metrics, supply chain due diligence, product responsibility, community impacts, and grievance redress. Practice realities. Treat BRSR like financial reporting. Assign owners, define controls, and preserve work papers. Build a data dictionary. Keep baselines consistent. Explain restatements. Prepare for limited assurance on critical indicators. Trace values back to source logs. 9. 1.4 Climate law and carbon credit trading frameworks. What managers must know. Mitigation tools, efficiency mandates, renewable purchase obligations, and market-based mechanisms that reward verified emission reductions. Carbon markets. A. Compliance markets created by law policy, and B. Voluntary markets driven by corporate net zero goals. Core mechanics. Additionality, credible baselines, monitoring reporting verification, MRV, and registry integrity to avoid double counting. Claims discipline. Avoid exaggerated carbon-neutral claims. Match offsets to the right scope and vintage. Document due diligence on project type, leakage, permanence, and social safeguards. Manager's Playbook, climate. Adopt an internal carbon price for capital allocation. Run scenario tests for transition and physical risks. Invest in data pipelines for Scopes 1-3 and publish a board-approved climate policy. 9. 1.5 ESG governance, assurance, and common pitfalls. Governance. Assign board committee oversight. Integrate ESG risks into enterprise risk management. Tie leadership KPIs to verifiable metrics. Assurance. Map which metrics need external assurance. Align methodologies with widely accepted protocols to reduce assurance friction. Pitfalls. Cherry-pick baselines, inconsistent organizational boundaries, supplier data gaps, and greenwashing. Build controls that prevent marketing claims outpacing evidence. 9.2 Labor Laws. Overview of the 4 labor codes. India has consolidated a web of prior statutes into 4 labor codes. While full effect depends on central and state notifications, their substantive ideas already shape contracts, payroll, and workplace governance. 9. 2.1. The Code on Wages 2019. Coverage, minimum wages, payment of wages, bonus, and equal remuneration across organized and unorganized sectors. Floor wage. A national floor wage informs state minima. Wage definition. Rationalized components influence PF, gratuity, bonus calculations, and cost-to-company design. Allowances beyond thresholds may fold back into wages. Payroll discipline. Timely wage payment, authorized deductions only, digital payslips registers, and grievance redress. Applied notions. Employee, worker, and contractor classification affects entitlements. Misclassification risks penalties and retroactive contributions. 9. 2.2 Industrial Relations Code 2020. Industrial disputes architecture, conciliation, adjudication, and grievance redress structures. Standing orders, statutory service rules for larger establishments, fixed-term employment recognized with parity of benefits, layoff closure, thresholds for prior permission, retrenchment compensation norms and notice periods, trade unions, recognition rules and dispute procedures, strikes lockouts require prior notice and compliance with timelines. 9. 2.3 Code on Social Security 2020. Consolidated Safety Net, EPF, ESI, gratuity, maternity benefits, and more under a unified framework. Gig and platform workers, recognized for targeted benefits via designated funds and schemes. Compliance, single registration, contributions, returns, inspections, and digitized record keeping. 9. 2.4 Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020. Health and safety. Duties of employers and workers, safety committees, medical facilities, working hour limits, rest intervals, leave minima, and welfare amenities. Women's employment, enabling night shift work with safety measures, creche facilities beyond thresholds, migrant labor, registration, portability of benefits, and decent accommodation standards. HR checklist. Update contracts/handbooks to code-ready language. Recalibrate wage structures to the new definition. Implement grievance and inquiry SOPs. Digitize registers. Complete POSH and safety trainings. And track state-level rules that activate specific provisions. 9. 2.5 Managerial scenarios and controls. Flexible staffing. Use fixed-term contracts with clarity on benefits parity. Outsourcing. Vet contractors for compliance. IR climate. Dialogue committees. Early conciliation. Payroll hygiene. Automate statutory deductions and reconcile with chalons. Keep auditable trails. 9.3 Real Estate, Regulation and Development. Act, RERA, 2016, 9. 3.1 Purpose and Scope. RERA brings transparency and accountability to the development and sale of apartments, plots, and buildings. It mandates project registration, standardized disclosures, regulates fund usage, and creates a specialized adjudicatory system for buyer grievances. 9. 3.2 Core Obligations. Mandatory registration. Projects above notified thresholds must register with the state authority before marketing. Agents require registration as well. Escrow discipline. A substantial portion, commonly 70% of amounts realized from allottees, must be kept in a separate bank account and used only for land and construction costs, with withdrawals certified by professionals. Disclosures. Sanctioned plans, approvals, timelines, promoter background, specifications, and quarterly updates on a public portal. Standardized area, sale by carpet area, prohibition on misleading advertisements. Defect liability, promoter responsibility for structural defects for a defined period post-handover. Timelines and interest. Delay triggers, interest compensation parity between promoter and allottee, and clear refund pathways for specified breaches. 9. 3.3 Enforcement architecture and penalties. State RERA authorities and adjudicating officers decide complaints. Appellate tribunals hear appeals. Penalties escalate for non-registration, misinformation, and non-compliance. Continuing contraventions can attract daily fines and, in egregious cases, prosecution. Authorities can direct refunds with interest, specific performance, and correction of defects. 9. 3.4 Life cycle controls for projects and buyers. Developers, financiers, verify title and encumbrances, examine approvals, test escrow compliance, match construction milestones to collections. Buyers, verify registration status, approvals, and escrow arrangements on the RERA portal, read allotment letters and agreements for possession timelines. Interest penalty symmetry. 9.4 The Right to Information Act, 2005, RTI. 9. 4.1 What RTI does. RTI establishes a rights-based mechanism for citizens to access information held by public authorities. It compels proactive disclosure, time-bound responses, and an appeal structure up to information commissions. Transparency is the default, exemptions are the exception. 9. 4.2 Mechanics and timelines. Public information officers, PIOs, receive and dispose applications within statutory timelines. First appellate authorities hear internal appeals. Commissions decide second appeals, complaints, exemptions, national security, trade secrets/commercial confidence, fiduciary information, personal privacy, and other heads. Many are capable of a public interest override. Third-party information, consult affected parties and weigh harm versus public interest before disclosure. Timelines. Applications are generally answered within defined periods. Urgent matters affecting life or liberty enjoy shorter timelines. 9. 4.3 Corporate relevance. Why private firms should care. Private companies are not directly subject to RTI, but information submitted to regulators or public bodies can be sought by applicants. Protection often turns on the trade secrets, competitive harm exemption, clear confidentiality markings, and reasoned submissions. Companies should structure regulator filings with RTI in mind, segregate confidential annexures, justify secrecy claims, and maintain records that support exemption where legitimate. Managers RTI hygiene, train government-facing teams, maintain a tracker of regulator submissions with confidentiality flags, and prepare templates for third-party consultation responses. 9.5 Insurance law, principles and regulations. What is insurance law? Insurance law is the body of rules that governs A. risk transfer contracts between an insured and an insurer, and B. the regulated industry that sells, distributes, and pays claims under those contracts. It blends contract law, tort and consumer law, and public regulation. In India, prudential and conduct standards are set primarily by the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, RDII. Core purposes: risk pooling and indemnity, spread large, uncertain losses across many policyholders, restore the insured after a covered loss rather than create profit. Fairness and stability, ensure products are transparent, insurers remain solvent, and claims are paid promptly and fairly. The building blocks, with plain definitions. Parties: insured, policyholder, insurer, beneficiary nominee, intermediaries, reinsurer. Insurable interest, a legally recognizable stake in the subject matter. Utmost good faith, uberrimai fide, both sides must disclose material facts. Policy anatomy, schedule, insuring clause, definitions, conditions, warranties, exclusions, endorsements, deductibles, co-pays, sum insured, limit of liability, causation and triggers, proximate cause, occurrence versus claims made, named perils versus all risks. During the term, alterations of risk must be disclosed. Claims mechanics, prompt notice, mitigation, cooperation with surveyors, loss adjusters, proof of loss, and subrogation and contribution. Market conduct and redress, standards to prevent mis-selling, mandate disclosures and protect policyholders, prudential guardrails, solvency margins, investment norms, typical lines, life, health, general non-life, property, fire, engineering, marine, motor, liability, cyber, fidelity, D&O. A quick example: a factory buys an all-risks property policy. A fire caused by a short circuit damages machinery. If required protections were in place and the proximate cause fits within cover, the insurer indemnifies repair replacement up to the limit, less the deductible. The insurer may later subrogate against a negligent contractor or faulty equipment supplier. Why managers should care. Coverage design is a contractual exercise. Contracts with vendors and customers should align with your insurance. Claims are won or lost on evidence and timing. Annual reviews of limits, deductibles, and policy wordings keep financing of risk aligned with business change. 9. 5.1 Core Principles, the Grammar of Insurance. Insurable interest. The policyholder must stand to suffer a real measurable loss. Utmost good faith, uberrimai fide. Full and accurate disclosure. Indemnity. Non-life policies restore, not enrich. Subrogation and contribution. Rights to recover from wrongdoers. Proximate cause and mitigation. The efficient cause governs liability. Insured must take reasonable steps to minimize loss. 9. 5.2 Regulatory architecture and market participants. Regulator. IRDI sets prudential and conduct norms. Distribution, agents, brokers, corporate agents, web aggregators, policyholder protection, standard proposal forms, free look periods, turnaround times for claims, and grievance redress through IGMs and the insurance ombudsman. Reinsurance, risk spreading to reinsurers. 9. 5.3 Contracts, exclusions, and claims. Forming the contract, proposal, underwriting, acceptance, policy issuance. Wordings matter. Claims made versus occurrence triggers, deductibles, sublimits, exclusions, and warranties. Claims practice, notify promptly, preserve evidence, cooperate with surveyors, quantify loss. Dispute pathways. Ombudsman for eligible disputes, civil courts arbitration. 9. 5.4 Managers Insurance Toolkit, integrated risk financing. Annually review limits and exclusions. Coordinate D&O, crime, cyber, professional indemnity, and property covers with contractual indemnities. Mandate vendor insurance where appropriate. Maintain a claims log and feed post-claim learnings into underwriting and controls. Consider business interruption and parametric options for catastrophe exposures. Quick revision sheets. ESG and climate, 10 checks. Permits register, EPR evidence trail, BRSR ownership, GHG boundaries, board-approved climate policy, supplier due diligence, assurance readiness, crisis playbooks, marketing claims review, M&A due diligence, labor codes, 9 checks, wage definition impact, standing orders, fixed-term templates, layoff closure readiness, social security reconciliations, safety committees and POSH training, women's night shift safeguards, outsourcing diligence, state rule tracker, IR inquiry SOPs, RERA, 9 checks, registration status, title diligence, escrow compliance, carpet area accuracy, milestones versus collections, related party contracts, defect liability protocol, buyer communication, timelines monitoring, RTI, 7 checks, confidentiality markings, records management, public interest analysis, team training, consultation templates, RTI tracker, interdepartment coordination, insurance, 10 checks, policy inventory, adequacy of limits, alignment of indemnities, claims made versus occurrence gaps, vendor insurance requirements, incident response, ombudsman IGMS map, cyber D&O crime PI quartet, BI parametric covers, post-claim learnings,